And recording.
All right, just wanted to update you guys. Since the last time we had a podcast, there's something called COVID. I'm not sure if you heard about that.
What is that? I call bullshit.
Yeah, it's been that long since we recorded, but yeah, man. So there's a few things that before we get into the meat of the podcast today, there's a few things that I wanted to hit on that happened between our last podcast and now. One of them, Bill and I don't know if Gates and Jay checked it out, but Bill and I both watched the Down live show, and I have to say, man, I was so freaking impressed with that show. I was impressed with everything about it because first of all, it's the best production I've seen from any of these live stream shows. They had like probably at least 7, 8, 9, 10 cameras going, tons of angles. And the big question mark for me was, how is Phil going to sound? Phil sounded amazing. I mean, he sounded freaking fantastic. And I would have to give some of that to, I don't know, maybe one of you guys even mentioned it, but like in-ear monitor. Yeah. The in-ear monitor played a big role in that. I think with him having that, he didn't have to push himself too much. And because of that, I mean, they sounded freaking awesome, man. I wanted to hear what you guys have to say about it.
Dead on, spot on. I love even the banter. The banter was great. Like when Phil's like, "Oh, send this song out to Australia. Australia, I love Australia." He's like really passionate about it. But they all seemed like in real high spirits. And dude, the best part was the intro stuff. All that cool footage, the club footage and the videos. It was awesome.
Yeah, what'd you think, Bill?
I thought it was good. I like, all the intro stuff was from Toured for Down 2. That was what they played before the band played because they didn't have an opener, did they? Who went with? Yeah, Jay.
We went up. We all went up to Atlanta.
Yeah. And they didn't have an opener. Remember they played that half an hour of fucking like Kirk getting taped to a chair and all that shit.
That's great.
So they did that.
Yeah, he's like, Keenan!
Yeah.
He's like, get you, Keenan! It was great.
So that was great. That was fucking cool. I thought Phil sounded and looked fucking great. I think they all were in top notch. I'm glad that fucking Kirk is back. I'm glad that everything. It's just Jimmy. I don't know, man. I don't know how the fuck he does it. He makes it look fucking flawless, man. Like there was no. I mean, I was up here pounding some beers watching it, but it was flaw. I mean, I didn't hear any fuck ups.
Not one.
I didn't either.
Band that hasn't
in the pocket the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, Jimmy was fucking. I mean, everybody sounded great, and I was really surprised that Phil sounded like he did, considering, I mean, his voice he's been singing a lot of heavy shit, and his voice has been not bad, but it's not what it was, obviously, years ago. Well, fuck, none of us are. We're all getting old, but he really, like, some of those parts, man, he was fucking nailing, like, on the album. I mean,
dude, the one song I was most apprehensive about was Jail. And that may have been my favorite song of the whole night. And I know they recorded it the day before because they had to, because they just had too many moving parts. They had the mandolin guy and they had the keyboard. But I mean, as far as replicating that song from the album to live, oh my God, dude, I was goosebumps, man. They killed Jail. It was so freaking good. My only complaint was that they didn't play anything much off of any other album because they played all of NOLA. They didn't do much outside of that, so it was limited to what they were able to play from the other albums. Because I would have liked to have heard something like what was that song from the last EP? They Knew Him Well, which I love. But even like I know they played Ghost of the Mississippi, but just of course you love all the you want to hear like Mourn or something like that. But I mean that's my only complaint, and that's a minor complaint. They killed it, man. I was so stoked to see that show.
I think they did it just right as far as coming out of the gate, not having played in a while, probably haven't practiced. I mean, I'm sure they practiced, but they had their shit. But I think they did it pretty good. Like, hey, left people wanting more. Because like you said, we might do this again. We're going to tour, get tour. You got to keep some surprises, I think, for that. Because, I mean, regardless of what you think of the COVID and wearing a fucking mask and this and that, I mean, you know, the opinions are like assholes. You know, we all got them. They all suck and stink and everything else. But I think people are really getting fucking tired of wearing a mask and not going to shows and staying at home and pulling their pud and everything else. You're going to get it. Okay, I get it. At some point, we're all going to fucking get it. That's just the way it is. You're going to be exposed to it. You're going to get it. It's going to happen. People get the fucking flu, everything else. I'm not saying, oh, we got to run out. We all got to fucking have an orgy together. But let's start getting back to some normalcy. Let's start getting back to, even if it means you got to go to a show and you got to put a fucking mask on in between, if you're in the bar, whatever the fuck. I don't know how you're going to do it, but people are, especially around here, like the island, last night we went and ate, and they lifted a lot of shit in the island. Like, that social distancing is fucking going. They're like, fuck this. Last night on the island, it was fucking insane, dude. It was insane. There was a ton of people everywhere, and I haven't seen it like that in a long time, obviously, because this shit's been going on for 8 months. But
did you see the thing on? Did you see the thing online, the Jay Mascis show?
No, I
The
can't.
social distancing. Jay Mascis did a show out in a field, and they marked the ground with tape, and that was where you had to sit the whole entire time and put your stuff. But it was a huge, massive field, and he was like playing on this big stage, and people were out, and there was like hundreds of people.
But you're talking about the guy from Dinosaur Jr.?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't stand that man.
He's
Yeah,
a
he
witch.
sucks.
He's great. Dude, I love him.
I fucking hate that guy.
I don't care. I don't care for him either. I'm just saying that's
I don't
the
know why.
only show I've really seen.
He's just annoying.
Mine.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, but
I can do it. People love him. Hey, guys,
I don't get it.
He makes money. He's good, but
dude, I have to say though, it would have been nice to be at the Down show, but I didn't have a bad time watching it online. It wasn't like I was like,
oh, it was cool.
I was drinking, I was rocking out. You know what I mean? Like I was high. I mean, I was like, I had a cooler of beer, and
high
you
on
know,
life, he meant.
I was naked. I was high.
Fuck that. You know what?
I drank a bottle of wine.
I was fucking high on marijuana.
I was high as draft pussy.
It was my fucking
You were high on
birthday.
that reefer, son. High on that reefer.
Yeah, it was the day after my birthday. So yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
sweet.
it was,
You had to
but it
celebrate.
was kind of cool. It was like I had a cooler and I had my fucking pen, and I'm like, this is the life, man. I'm sitting watching high definition Down with my badass headphones on, drinking and smoking, and I mean, I know that's not the same as going to a show, but that was a pretty damn close second. It was all right by me.
Good. Like the Steel
Yeah,
Panthers, like when Steel Panther played. Those are fucking great, dude. I don't mind watching like that shit. That time goes by so fucking fast watching those for some reason. I don't know what it is. Same thing with Down.
The Clutch one was the same way too.
Boom, it's gone. I'm like,
yeah, the Clutch one was like over before they start. I was like, what the hell? What happened? Did I drink too much? No, in 1 hour, done. Like,
well, Crowbar is getting ready to do one with the Obsessed.
Yeah, and
awesome.
Oh,
and
are you kidding me?
No, and Kirk said they are playing songs they haven't played in 7, 8, 9, 10 years or more.
Awesome.
They're playing a super rare kind of set list. So,
All right, cool.
so that's
Hey,
something to
real
look forward
quick
to.
on back to the sound of that. You know, the fact that the technology today enabled it to be such clear, high definition sound as well as video. I heard layers, which allowed Kirk and Pepper to totally jam out, and I was thinking to myself, Leonard Skinner, man, these guys are Leonard Skinner of our time.
yeah,
They can riff within the song off each other, always find their way back. They play with different tones, they play with different guitars, they blend well. They accompany each other in a total jam way that, you know, Southern rock you can see is a big part of what they do. I loved it.
Yeah,
Great.
it was
Yeah.
badass.
That's the band they can grow old with. Remember they were talking about that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that was
used to
cool.
say
I
that.
like the way they said that.
So this is the band we can grow old, and it's fucking true. Like think of it.
Yeah.
Those guys
It's
put
just
out
rock
an
and roll,
acoustic
man.
album. They put out an acoustic album. They put that out. Fuck, dude, that's gonna. Who doesn't want to hear that? The couple songs I've heard is fucking awesome.
They're just a legendary rock and roll band. That's what they do.
Yep.
And they can do it live, and that's where they thrive too. So that makes that setting even better, you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I don't. We're shifting gears a bit because what we're talking about today is it's a little bit different style of music, but still, of course, hard rock. And you know, I was telling Gates and Jay before, and Jay knows this because I've peppered him with like random questions about the hair band type era for forever. And he's just like, dude, I didn't realize any human thought about this kind of music like you do. Like I go down these like insane rabbit holes, dude.
Yeah, definitely hair bands. Yeah,
yes,
definitely
yes.
Dude,
Yeah,
I
Dude,
have,
definitely
if-
docking. Yeah.
If you could just document how many lists you've made over the years of every subgenre, sub-question. Okay, yeah, there you
You
go.
got like an Excel spreadsheet.
Yes.
this is the list I'll be getting to
Got-
shortly.
He's doing
got
calculus
information.
over there.
Which is-
Information.
What
Which
goes
dis-
on? What goes on in that brain of yours, Dave?
Dude, I have thought and analyzed the
Metal and
era
resin.
of the whole 80s, basically the whole 80s hard rock era, and analyzed what happened. And what we're going to be getting to eventually is since we have the feature interview with Alex from Circus of Power, we're going to be getting to especially what we're talking about is there were these, I have 4 different eras of the bands that came, the hard rock era bands that came out in the 80s. But the people that got the shaft were the bands that came out in the 4th era, which I'll get to, which is like the bands that came out around, that got signed and their album came out around 89, 90. And there were a bunch of really cool and interesting bands that came out at that time, Circus of Power being one of them. And they all got screwed just by timing. And what's the irony is that, as you see the graphic right there,
Mhm.
the irony is that on September 29th, 1991, the video for Smells Like Teen Spirit debuted on MTV, and everybody credits that with literally being like the end of the hair, whatever you want to call it. It's the 80s hard rock genre, the hair genre, whatever you want to call it. That people credit that being like literally the end. It was like, it wasn't even like a slow kind of like fade out. It was like, screeching halt, tire, like just done. Like if you're associated with that in any way, shape, or form, you are freaking gone. Persona non grata, get the hell out of here. You had your time. Nobody wants you anymore. Get the fuck out.
Well,
And
check this out. So remember, like 2 weekends ago, Gates sends out a trivia question to the group, and he says, give the list of albums that came out on this day,
yeah.
September 24th, 1991. And I responded, I was off a year, and they're like, oh, check this out. It was Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Actually, Pearl Jam came out a few months before, but yeah, the other one was the Cult. Same date, the Cult album came out. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but
All right.
we had to pick.
Woman.
What's that? No, it was this Ceremony with Wild Hearted Son and
That came out in 90?
91.
91.
Oh,
September 23rd,
Fire
1981.
Woman came out, must have been 88 or 89.
Yeah, because they toured with
Electric came out in
Metallica.
87.
Well,
Right.
back to Dave's point. Dave, drop the knowledge, brother.
Well, so I'll get into all the eras of hair metal, but what was interesting about, all right, so I'll go through it real quick, so bear with me on this. So, okay, so you have 4 eras in my mind, and I've thought about this a lot, so if anybody wants to challenge me on this, go right ahead. I'll debate you for an hour or more.
Hey, Eddie Trunk.
I'll
since
bury that bitch.
Fuck that guy.
Bill's out to get him. Let's get Eddie Trunk.
Him and Dinosaur Jr. can go blow each other.
All right, so
I don't care if anybody likes him. Fuck him.
so you had, all right, so the 80s, the 80s hard rock era was born in basically in 1980, 81. So some of these bands had formed before that time. They were inspired by Kiss, New York Dolls, Van Halen, but these bands started an entire new genre that would become massive. And these were the bands I include in this list are Motley Crue, Quiet Riot, Def Leppard, Bon Jovi, Twisted Sister, Dokken to a degree. Rat was also there at that time as well. So these are the people that were there first. They were the ones that were around in 80, 81. They started the whole thing. Then you had era number 2, which were the bands that quickly followed on the heels of those bands and the success of the hair metal genre, which are Cinderella, Poison, White Lion, Tesla, LA Guns, Great White, Faster Pussycat. Okay. Then you have the third wave, which are now we're deeper into the genre, and now it's exploding. So there you got Warrant, Bullet Boy, Skid Row, Extreme, Dangerous Toys, Britney Fox, Winger, Kicks, Enough's Enough, and a few others. And I love almost all those bands.
That's the worst. That fourth quarter. That fourth quarter. I would just take all those
Okay,
bands. and
repeat. Can I get the fourth quarter repeated?
No, that was the
again?
third quarter. That's the
All right,
third
third
quarter.
quarter.
That's a
So
third quarter.
Then
That's the
repeat it
third
again.
quarter.
Hopefully it gets better
One
in
more
the fourth.
time.
So here's the fourth, but here's the fourth quarter. And the fourth
Okay.
quarter is the real interesting one to me, is because these bands were not doing the teased up hair anymore. They were not doing the spandex. They were not doing the makeup. What they were doing was a totally different aesthetic. It was like the biker gypsy metal kind of vibe.
Butch.
A lot of this.
So, but this was like in the fourth era, these bands weren't like inspired as much by Kiss and you know, like in New York Dolls. These guys were more inspired by like AC/DC and the Rolling Stones. They had more of a gypsy slash.
Oh, that's the good era then. That's the good era.
This is what we're in this era. You're talking about like Circus of Power, Lynch Mob, Junkyard, Badlands, Saigon Kick, Rhino Bucket, Bang Tango, Lynch. You know, Love Hate. These are the bands that were like.
Oh, Hate. Yeah.
They had moved on from. They were trying to separate themselves from. They were more inspired, like, again, by the Stones, AC/DC. You know, they weren't doing the makeup. They weren't doing the teased hair. They were more the biker rock, leather and jeans.
Yeah.
So they were kind of inspired by Guns N' Roses, who was the anomaly in this era. You know, they were the band that was the total anomaly that came out in '87 that didn't fit in any of that. They set up their own thing. But it's these bands that I find most interesting in the fourth era of the hard rock '80s era, because these were the bands that were actually trying to do something different, but they got lumped in with all the other stuff. They got killed or expunged by grunge in September 1991. And to me, that wasn't fair. Like what happened to bands like Circus of Power and Lynch Mob and Love Hate and Badlands, Saigon Kick, like those bands didn't really have a shot. Most of these bands, as you'll hear, had like 2 albums and then they just got buried. And it wasn't because they weren't good. It was because it was like, you know, throw the baby out with the bathwater. Like they just got tossed aside with all the other bands that were signed and came out in the 80s. So,
hey Dave, let me ask you this: why do you think? Where did that style for Guns N' Roses come from? Now,
I think, there's a little. To me, there's
somebody told them to do that because they fucking were. Somebody must have done something or said something to them, like, hey. And if they did, I don't know. Maybe you know more than me, but I'm just throwing this out there. But I think somebody told them, listen, fucking hair metal is going to be going out. So you guys got to get more butch. You got to fucking start looking more like this.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very interesting point. And it's kind of hard to imagine that a bunch of guys strung out on heroin were smart enough to see what was coming down the pike. But they saw 4 years before it happened, they saw something. Like you said, I mean, I absolutely agree with that, because they did not do, aside from Axl Rose's hair in the Welcome to the Jungle video, they absolutely set themselves apart from all that other stuff. They were the gypsy biker, you know, they were inspired by punk and they were inspired by the Rolling Stones, and they were not at all doing the Kiss teased hair, you know, cock rock thing. They were doing the, you know, bluesy, you know, drugged up, fucked up, you know, like they were doing a whole different thing. And they set themselves up as like the leader of a whole other genre of hard rock that was going to follow along with them, but got killed by grunge. And it's funny that Guns N' Roses is literally one of the only bands of that entire time period that survived grunge. Like they were it. I mean, you could say Motley Crue did, but they didn't. I mean, Motley Crue didn't survive. When they did their post-grunge album, which was the one with John Corabi, it flopped. Now, it's a good album. I think Bill agrees. I mean, it's a good album, but it flopped completely. All of those bands were screwed sideways, except for Guns N' Roses.
Because it was taboo. Everybody thought it was. They were. If you like those bands, or if you show, it was like you said. I agree 150 fucking %. Overnight, it was like you went from fucking Aquanet, fucking colored hair and all that, to overnight where people might have still had long hair, but they were probably cutting their hair. Fucking Aquanet probably went out of business because the stock dropped like fucking because nobody bought. And then flannel and Doc Martens fucking went. And I'm not just fucking saying flannel because it literally fucking did. Like everybody had like the grunge starter kit, or every fucking fashion thing where you went, they were selling shit that was grunge. And if you look back on those pictures, we all probably fucking had it. I know I did. I had Docs.
Yeah, and flannel.
Yep.
Dude, watch the video for Van Halen on the Right Here, Right Now live tour, which came out in like 93. Sammy Hagar's wearing flannel. because he had to. Because
But-
I mean, it was the dress du jour.
What really influenced people making the change was, I think, the collaboration that it's always been, which is MTV and radio stations. MTV was the visual. You saw the visual. Oh shit, these guys look different. And then the radio just hammered and hammered with Alice in Chains and Soundgarden. And think about how many times you heard the song Plush over and over and over and over,
Mhm.
sex type thing, you
Mhm.
know, and even like that, just underneath it all, the alternative, you know, the Jane's Addiction stuff, Red Hot Chili Peppers, which wasn't really grunge, that stuff started to, you know, people started, oh, I'm gonna have some fun, but you know, not too much fun, and then grunge was like, oh, we're all sad, we can't have fun anymore.
Right.
It's kind of true. Yeah.
But I
Right.
remember
Absolutely
watching Smells Like Teen Spirit. And my thing is, at that time, all I was listening to was hardcore music. Just New York hardcore, West Coast hardcore. It didn't fucking matter. Hardcore. That's all I was listening to. And I remember watching that video and seeing a kid wearing a Bad Brain shirt and then see someone like flip up into the crowd and then the mosh pit breaks out. And I was like, that's what I've been fucking telling people for years that I go to, and they don't understand. And then when I started going to shows, I'd see more and more of my friends going to shows going, we get it. We get it. You go there because you want to get out your aggression. You want to get out your fucking rage. And then the shows just got bigger and bigger. I saw the Red Hot Chili Peppers headline a tour with Pearl Jam opening and Smashing Pumpkins. And I saw that tour, the same tour in 3 different locations. I saw it at the Rocky
sounds
Point
cool.
Palladium. I saw it up in Springfield at the basketball arena. And then I also saw it at in Boston. And dude, it was just thousands of people. Like all these people that had never heard of these bands, just somehow it was on the radio all the time. It was on MTV all the time. And everybody looked the same. Everybody had flannel and everybody, you know,
That's because
it was a life-changing thing.
Well,
It
because
was-
the fashion, this is the one genre where the fashion as well as the music media got involved,
right.
and they found a way to market the clothing style. When it was
Well,
a big just
also
left.
the movie Singles, when the movie Singles came
Absolutely.
out,
So there you get your Hollywood,
right,
appeal, and you can then sell that image worldwide. And
right.
you saw it in the malls. They changed all
Yeah.
the stores changed as well. Not only did music stores have to remove the popular bands and switch them out, so did all the clothing. It changed.
But you still had that underlying like Mother Love Bone, Melvin, Sonic Youth, Mudhoney that
Dude, that's great. I love all those bands.
it didn't get as popular as grunge did because I
No, it
think
didn't.
certain bands just were pushed onto people from the record labels, just
From the
pushed
record labels.
and
That's right.
pushed through MTV and pushed through radio stations. That's what it was. It was friggin' everywhere.
That's evidence of the record company machine in action.
And Saturday
Absolutely.
Night Live too. Saturday Night Live was the other influence.
Oh yeah,
I
because
remember
they could
seeing-
influence record sales by whoever
Right.
they had on that Saturday night.
Yeah, and
You saw
even
Smashing Pumpkins on there. You're like,
Yeah,
who the hell are these guys?
and it even bled over to Headbangers Ball, man. It even
Yep.
bled over to Headbangers Ball, where Ricky Rackman had to have the grunge bands on, whether he wanted to or not. And not that he didn't, but you know, and in those bands' defense, I mean, you know, here, you know, what's funny is like when all that music came out, I liked all of it. You know what I mean? But what killed it for me, like for example, Nirvana is one of those bands where I loved Nevermind. However, the more I started, and as a music journalist, I was working back then, and for all the magazines I wrote for at the time, what they would tell me, like I would say, hey, I want to interview such and such. And they started shooting me down. Any band that I wanted to interview, that my editors were like, nope, nope, nope. They kept telling me no. And so what started to happen was I started to really, really resent some of those bands, especially Nirvana, because Nirvana kept being put up there as the band that sort of killed the sort of music that I liked and the bands I wanted to interview. So I don't know if I've honestly listened to Nevermind in probably 20 years, just because I started to resent it so much, because I was like, you know, even though I liked it, I was like, yeah, but you know, you killed music that I loved, and you basically told people that the music I loved was garbage. And it's like, and it wasn't Nirvana's fault. You know what I mean? They didn't do it. It was the record labels telling
fucking
everybody, you know what I mean? It was the corporate machine. Exactly. The corporate machine. MTV,
machine.
radio. Yep.
It spits out everything that has been doing it.
Just crank it.
Since record.
That's what it is. It's a factory.
Bands got signed, and they still fucking do it today. But the problem today is you can go, hey, go fuck yourself. I'm going to listen to what I want because labels are nothing like they used to be. And it's funny that Greg mentioned Red Hot Chili Peppers because they were recording their album when I was in Hawaii. They recorded their album in Hawaii, One Hot Minute. They played like a show one night that a buddy of mine, his girlfriend worked, I don't know, for some bullshit with the record label. And they played a show. We got there. They played like 7 songs. We got there for like the 4th song. So I got to see him in a really small place. It was fucking packed. There was like 200 people there. But
was that when Navarro? Was Navarro playing guitar with them at the time?
Navarro was playing guitar. Yes, he was.
Wow, that's cool,
and
man.
They were fucking amazing.
Yeah.
They played one new song, and it's the heavier one. Oh, what the fuck is the name of it? It's the one they got the video for where they're fucking.
Oh, they're like in the road. The guys wearing the fire pants and he's like rotating.
And then they played one more. They played like a cover song, and they played. I want to say they played a Bad Brains cover song or some punk, but it was fucking great, man. And I forgot about that until you mentioned. I was like, holy shit, that's right. I saw them.
We said 91, right? We said 91, September 24th, 1991.
Yep, September 29th, 91 is when that video came out.
So I got to look up the date. But I went to Lollapalooza 1, and I went to all of the Lollapaloozas, like except for the last 4. The first one was really cool with, Susie and the Banshees and Jane's Addiction and then Body Count and Rollins Band. But the second one was the grunge one with Pearl Jam. And then it was Soundgarden, Ministry, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Lush was on that one, and a few other bands.
Yeah, that was 92, man. That's the famous 92. Lollapalooza, man.
Right. So grunge had already come out in the fall. And then that summer, it was just pounded into your head. But remember this, though? I always thought grunge would have started earlier with Alice in Chains if it would have been done better. But they put Alice in Chains on that Clash of the Titans tour for Facelift in 90. Do you remember that with Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax, and Alice? And people were so pissed at Alice in Chains. They're like, you should be Testament. It should be Testament up there. And they were throwing shit at him. And Facelift is an amazing record. It's just
hell yeah.
The record label couldn't pair them up with it. There was nobody that they could have paired them up with at that time because it was like them, Mudhoney, Melvins, and a few others. And then the shit broke afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, even Soundgarden, they didn't break with Loud Love. They didn't break until Bad Motorfinger. You know what I mean? They had which was 91. Ultra Mega OK. And Loud Love and nothing. Right. You know what I mean? And same thing with like Facelift did break because Man on the Box broke. You know what I mean? Like it got them some popularity.
Alice in Chains, Facelift. How many episodes did they do with Ricky Ratman? They went to New Jersey.
Oh yeah,
to Action Park. They were.
That's right.
They were so into like almost being especially Contrell and Sean Kinney just being like cutting it up and being fun, and they were not the depressed Nirvana. So that was really kind of an issue with. They're really
Nirvana
kind of
was never
band.
on the Headbangers Ball because they were fucking shunned. They didn't.
No, they were on.
They were on.
120 minutes.
They wore those crazy costumes.
No, that was 120 minutes. I think they were on, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were never on Headbangers Ball. I'm almost positive.
Yeah, I think they did 100. They did 120 minutes, and J-Man's out. Oh, he's going to look.
Yeah, I'm almost positive they were never on.
Oh wait, here you go. On the verge of Nirvana's explosion into the mainstream, they made an appearance on the once popular MTV program Headbangers Ball. This is widely remembered as the time Kurt wore a big yellow ball gown. But
that's right.
For former host Ricky Rackman, that's not the most memorable part of First Meeting. So there's a so I mean
that was holy shit.
I don't remember that at all.
Broke.
Yeah, so they didn't. I mean, and
after they broke, they didn't give a fuck about. And
well,
they didn't give a fuck then.
They did. Well, they did. I remember watching MTV, and they did MTV News, and there was some radio station. I don't remember which. It wasn't WAF, but there was a radio station in Boston. It might have been BCN, and they did like a BCN bash or a birthday party, and Nirvana headlined it. But they had already done Bleach, and then Nevermind hadn't come out. And I remember watching this footage of them like covering people in whipped cream and throwing shit and diving off the stage. And I was like, Who the fuck band is this? And they're up in Boston. And then instantaneously, like 2 months later, huge.
And he hated metal, which is crazy because Dave Grohl is like, and Chris Novoselic, I don't think he likes metal either. So, I mean, they might like Sabbath or whatever, but Kurt Cobain fucking hated metal. He hated being lumped in with anything to do with metal.
Right.
This is, you know.
But metal.
Dude, you play fucking distorted guitars and heavy drums, you fucking drug addict. You're metal.
That's it.
Metal.
That's the thing, bro.
But bands.
But he also had an issue with being. He said, I don't know, his depression was related to being forced to be a superstar when he wanted to be a creative person, not a media star. It distorted everything.
Fuck you become a
That's why he was acting all rebellious on Headbangers Ball.
Yeah, but I mean, but think about this. Like, and Eddie Vedder had a problem with it initially too, because what happened was these bands went from playing clubs for a couple hundred people to playing a festival in front of 30,000 people. And that happened so fast that you try to wrap your head around that. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't typically happen. And that's what Eddie struggled with a lot. He was like, I expected to have a slow climb. You know what I mean? Like, we play for a couple hundred people, then it's 1,000. You know what I mean? You expect it to be more of a natural progression, not to go from, you know, a couple hundred people to 30,000. And realizing that most of those 30,000 people aren't there because they love their music. They're there because you're the flavor of the day, and you're rebelling against that. Like, you don't want to be the flavor of the day. You want to have, and that's why Pearl Jam is one of my probably top 5 favorite bands of all time, because they still exist today. They would sell out arenas of 20,000 people, and all those people are there because they love Pearl Jam. And here they still are, you know, how many, 30 years later. And, you know, they built their following eventually the way they hoped to do it initially, which was, you know, just, you know, you build and you build and you build rather than going from 200 people to 30,000. And you're just like, how the hell did this happen? And it is uncomfortable. It is a lot to swallow. And that's, I mean, Kurt drowned in heroin, you know what I mean? And then he killed himself because he couldn't handle it.
Double buckshot.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So
but let me say something real quick. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I somewhat agree with Dave, but I don't agree, because this is my thing. When you start a fucking band, you start playing band, you want to be famous. So I don't have sympathy for people when they become famous and they cry, "Oh fuck, I don't want to be, I don't want to be like this." You fucking were in a band. You are releasing stuff. You are playing in front of people. Why else do you fucking do it? Like, when you hear about older bands, like a band like Kiss or Zeppelin or fucking Sabbath or any of them, they're like, I wanted to be famous. There's fucking nothing else I was good at. So when these bands kind of like go, like especially Kurt Cobain, maybe I'm a dick. Maybe I'm the only one that feels this way, but fucking boo-hoo, bro. Boo-hoo. You fucking blew up, but it took you did release other good fucking music.
Yeah.
Prior to Nevermind.
Bleach is great, dude.
Yeah,
that's a solid album.
I mean, they have, and there's another fucking EP that they have. So it's like, you fucking blew up. That's what you're fucking approaching. That's what you're trying to do. So when it happens, you can't go, "Oh, I didn't know what to do with it." Well, fuck, you should have been thinking about that. You know, it's always out there, because music is, and like Dave said, Dave hit the nail on the head. The flavor of the day is why a lot of fuckheads go to see fucking bands play. A lot of things. A lot of the fans are there, and you'll hear them, "Oh, I'm here. This is great. Do you like so-and-so?" Or people that wear band shirts, and they couldn't fucking tell you those people, I want to cut the shirt off and then fucking slap them.
You're not allowed to wear that. Just rip it right off. It's true, though.
You got a Pantera shirt on. All right, name me 3 of their fucking songs.
Walk.
Or Johnny Cash. Oh, I got a Johnny Cash shirt on because it's fucking cool. All right, name me 3 Johnny Cash songs, and don't fucking tell me "Hurt" or "Ring or Fire." I'm gonna
punch you in your neck.
Yeah. So
what do you guys what do you guys think, or what's your individual? I think Dave mentioned his. What's your individual favorite grunge band?
Soundgarden, easily, hands down. I guess they're grunge.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I mean,
I don't know. I don't really consider those guys grunge.
They're
my favorite Seattle
They're
band.
lumped in there,
Yeah.
Right?
And I don't put Alice in Chains in there. I don't even put Pearl Jam there, because actually they're more just classic rock. Grunge is such a misnomer.
Yeah.
You know,
it was created. It's a corporate. It's corporate, manufactured, and it's like. And what's interesting to me about grunge and it's to the point that you're making, Greg, about, you know, a grunge album and what was grunge. But think about this. So why did grunge happen? Grunge happened because grunge happened in terms of why it was manufactured as a response to the oversaturation of hair bands. So for every one good hair band, you had a couple that were signed that were hot garbage, and the whole aesthetic became completely overblown and people were sick of that. So grunge, you have to be an opposite. So what's the opposite of shiny, happy, party, smiley, having a good time? It's dark, depressing, you know, like
So sad.
be.
It
You're right,
rains
it could-
all the time here. I make so much money. I don't know what to do.
but that image was almost forced on those bands. Like that
Right.
wasn't necessarily, that's not necessarily who Alice in Chains was or who Soundgarden was. And we could see who Soundgarden would have evolved to be. We saw what Pearl Jam evolved to be, what Alice in Chains could have evolved to be. Though they were forced into that box of, you know, Seattle was the opposite of LA. Seattle was rainy and dark, and the opposite of Los Angeles, which was sunny and bright. So that's what the record labels wanted. They wanted something, we found this city, which is completely different than Hollywood and Los Angeles, where the aesthetic is 100% different, and everybody's sick of hair bands anyway. So that's where they went. But yeah, I mean, those bands, like you guys said, like you build like Soundgarden, but did Soundgarden evolve out of grunge? Of course they did. Alice in Chains, maybe they never were grunge. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to pick that, because what was grunge anyway, except something manufactured by record labels and MTV.
Fucking word, like anything else, like any other. People always have to subcategorize shit. They can't. To me, it's rock,
Classic.
rock and metal, rock and
Put a
fucking
name on it.
I mean,
I'd have to say Alice in Chains, because I think I like everything.
I love Alice in
Chains
Chains,
have
but I
done.
consider them more heavy rock. Like, you know what I mean? Like even like Soundgarden, I don't consider them grunge, but I mean, to me, they were more. If you had to lump them in with that, they were before any of them with that sound that Dave's describing. In my opinion, I don't know. If I had to pick one, because Alice in Chains, like, you know, I just don't. They're not grunge. They're not fucking. They're their own fucking thing. They're one of those bands that is just their own. They're too much all over the place with everything.
That's a debate right there. Was grunge?
Is it real?
Did they really need to put the name grunge with
No,
those bands?
they did it
They just have call it rock.
Just to put
No,
into
they
a
had-
box.
Heavy rock.
They had to do it because
Hard rock.
the record labels thought that they had to have something to market. You know what I mean? They
Yeah,
want
and
they
people
want
like to see
terms.
change. They like to see
Well,
new.
It's like those bands. Don't tell me some of those bands didn't benefit from the word grunge, because if you were a band around that time and you got put in that box of grunge, you got more attention paid to you than if you didn't get lumped into that box. It helped as much as it hurt. So it was a double-edged sword. Same thing with the hair bands. Like, there were bands that came along that we'll talk about on this list that probably had more in common with blues than they did with any kind of hair band aesthetic, but it didn't matter. If you were a rock band that was anywhere near Los Angeles and you came out at that time where you were thrown in that box with everybody else, and you were expected to tease your hair up, and you were expected to put on makeup, and you were expected to follow along with everybody else.
I still
You were
think
the man in the box.
I still think the heavy hitters at the time that we were listening to still churned out great records, though. Anthrax and fucking Testament, and I'll say Metallica, because I do like the Black Album. I don't love it, but that was right before the whole little grungy stuff. You know,
True.
Iron Maiden put out great records at that time, but
yeah. The magazines I wrote for wouldn't let me interview any thrash bands. Basically
Pantera,
from 91 or late 91 through, I can't even tell you how long. They would not let me interview any thrash
But that was
bands.
the shit. That was like Pantera and fucking Overkill, and
Pantera was the only band that, because they were a new band. They let me interview like death metal was okay, because death metal was growing out of that time period, the early 90s. But if it was a thrash band, they weren't
What about
interested.
Body Count? How did they fit in? As far as from
rap metalcore or something? No.
I don't know. I mean, I think Body Count fit in because Ice-T brought a kind of credibility to that style of music, that, because he came over from rap, and rap was obviously big in the early 90s.
Oh, yeah,
still
man.
was big. So he brought credibility to it. because he was different. I mean, I don't want to say it was a gimmick. I don't think they meant it to be a gimmick, but I think, record labels could kind of apply a gimmick to it because it was this rap legend in Ice-T who put out a heavy metal album.
You know why he started Body Count? Do you ever hear why?
No.
Because his buddy Ernie C, the guitar player, Ernie C always played guitar, and Ice-T was always like, "Fuck, man, you need to get in a band." I guess he jammed with some people. So to have an outlet, he started Body Count so Ernie C could fucking release it, and Ernie C would have
cool
platform for his. So that's why he basically.
Yeah, because he's a big metal guy. Ernie C's a huge metal guy, isn't he? He's like,
he produced the fucking Black Sabbath album.
Yeah, Black Sabbath album.
Forbidden. Ooh, not one of Black Sabbath's best efforts.
We'll save that for the Black Sabbath episode.
Yeah, exactly. But I also want to mention before we get to it and we get to our lists, please stick around for anybody listening, because the interview with Alex, the guy is a born orator. I mean, he is a great speaker. I mean, the guy is like a super engaging speaker, and he really should have his own podcast just because of how good of a speaker he is and the stories he tells. He's a natural storyteller, natural speaker, and he definitely is even if you didn't listen to Circus of Power, maybe just by listening to this episode, you might check out some Circus of Power. I'm sure Greg and Bill are going to have some suggestions, and listen to the interview. And I think you'll have a newfound respect for the band. And, for anybody that didn't check out some of these bands we're going to talk about, like check these bands out, because you may have not checked them out just because of when they came out, because they got expunged by grunge or kind of buried because of when their albums were released. But that's not fair, man. And the funny thing is, listen, so this is how I know I like this music, because I didn't listen to one of the bands that's going to be on my list is Love Hate. I did not listen to Love Hate when they came out, even though I saw them open up for AC/DC on the Razor's Edge tour.
Razor's Edge tour. That was a great tour.
Even though I saw them on that tour, I didn't start listening to Love Hate until about 3 years ago. So that just goes to show that like good music is good music no matter when it comes out, because music is art and art is timeless. So I started listening to Love Hate like 3 years ago, and I was like, oh my God, I love this band. They only had 2 albums that came out at that time, but like good music's good music, man. So, just because this stuff got buried by grunge in the, late 80s, early 90s doesn't mean it's not awesome and you shouldn't try to, just check it out. So, but we all named didn't we all name our top 5 bands that got kind of killed by grunge? Is that what we're doing here?
Yeah.
Well, not necessarily killed. I mean,
overshadowed.
At least pushed to the side.
Overshadowed by it.
Yeah. I mean, although if you look at the list, all these bands basically stopped for a while until, and this is kind of what happened to all these bands. Like they all kind of stopped for a while and then kind of slowly came back once this style of music was no longer persona non grata. You know what I mean? Like they eventually came back. Dokken got back together and Motley Crue brought Vince back. And so that's how this music is powerful, because it only kind of hibernated for about 3, 4, 5 years and then it came back. So you're right. It wasn't killed by grunge. It was kind of pushed to the side for a while. So, but I know he's got his list. So why don't we start our list here? Our top 5 bands that were pushed to the side by grunge or kind of overshadowed by grunge for a bit. So I want to start. I know he's got a list, so we'll start with Lord Gates. Lord Gates, what was your 5 bands that were sort of expunged by grunge for a little while?
Well, I'm actually starting off number 5 with Circus of Power. I've always been a fan of them. Got to see them open for Faith No More, and I love that band, and I think they, they've got a small, only a few releases, and then the new EP just came out. But I just think that they were a band that just could have been more. And I think grunge just kind of pushed them off to the side a little bit. And they're so charismatic. How do you say it?
Charismatic. Yeah.
Charismatic, and just have so much intensity that they just want to entertain. Even, just talking to Alex, man, the guy's so cool, and he's like, I just want the music to get out there and to be in front of a crowd. And they've done cool stuff. Even the album 4 that they did, where they had Nick from Queens playing bass with them, they're solid. They're just a solid band, and I think more people
need produced and played drums on it.
Yeah, that's right. People need to know about them. All right, number 4 is a band that it's probably only one of the bands that I really, really got into on that third. Is it the third level of third level,
Third
is
or third
Bullet
wave?
Boys.
Bullet Boys,
Bullet
yeah.
Boys. I think Bullet Boys, especially the first record, was, and they did have some mainstream success. I remember seeing them on tour with, I think it was Bullet Boys, Cinderella, and I think Winger. I think that was the tour, and they were amazing live. And God, that guy can fucking sing, man. And I just think that grunge just went whoop, pushed them right aside as well. Okay, let's see here okay, number 3. I absolutely love this band, and I think right when grunge came about, they were done. I'm gonna say Wasp, because Wasp was, in my eyes, huge, man. I loved everything they did. They had that whole Alice Cooper on stage, imagery and fire and the F like a beast and the saws, and I did not know this. I had to Google this, and I cannot believe this, but I did not know that Blackie Lawless was supposed to play the other Terminator in Terminator 2. The guy that can morph into shit.
Mm-hmm.
He was actually going to play that part, but got it kicked out because Schwarzenegger thought he was too tall and he didn't want to be over. I didn't know that. That's fucking crazy.
A couple movies he was supposed to be in.
Oh, shit.
Right. But I just think that when, their albums were amazing, but then grunge came in and they just kind of,
They still released
Holmes,
stuff, but yeah, they weren't.
Yeah, Holmes left the band, and I think that kind of affected it all. But I just think that was another band that people could have focused in on more with them.
I love Wasp.
I do too. I think they're fucking awesome.
Kill Fuck Die is like amazing.
All right, this one's a little. It's not obscure. Well, everybody knows who this is, but these guys have always stood by their own, and I've always felt that they just did the DIY the right way. But then when grunge came along, I don't think people paid attention to them. I'm going to say Fugazi. I think Fugazi was one of those bands, did $5 shows, did amazing albums, and just were politically conscious. And then grunge came out, and that was it. You didn't really hear from them at all. Yeah. Okay. And my top one, who I love, I've been a fan of him. I know Bill's a fan of him as well. I'm going to say The Cult, because that Record Ceremony came out the same day that all those other fucking, Nirvana and all the grunge stuff came out, and it wasn't a huge album. They had like 2 songs off of it, but then everything after that just kind of fell by the wayside. I think that they stuck to their sound, and people just didn't receive it well. They didn't get it. And they were that band that, man, had that awesome psychedelic sound, with Love. I mean, Love is so different than Electric, and Electric is rocking.
The guitar always had the great guitar. Too,
amazing, man.
Kind of guitar.
And, Ian's vocals are like Morrison's vocal, and they're just cool. And then they came out with Sonic Temple that was huge. That, they toured with Metallica, and they did headlining tours and shit. And then that was it. Just done. So my top one, number 1 is The Cult.
Nice. All right, I haven't heard much from him this episode, so my bad for that, especially if we haven't kicked it over to you enough. But J-Man, give me your top 5 bands that kind of got kicked to the wayside by grunge.
All right, so we're gonna go to number 5, Little Caesar.
Nice.
Wow.
So here's what happened. They do an EP in '89. It attracts the attention of Geffen Records. So they put out in 1990 the self-titled Little Caesar album produced by Bob Rock.
Yep.
All right, so we know what that means. That's big money, right? 1992, still on Geffen, they release their next album, Influence. Here's the issue, though. Bob Rock didn't work with them. Also, we have issues where this is a time when Headbangers Ball, MTV rotation is huge. And people at MTV thought these guys looked too much like a gang of Hell's Angels. So
Really?
even though it was the age of video, MTV's like, hey, let's steer away. All right. But here's the thing. They have a great release of a cover, Aretha Franklin cover, Chain of Fools. Their album is produced so well that they're ranked 139 on US Billboard 200 for the year 1990. So it's credible. It's a credible band with support by the label. What happens afterwards, though? Geffen starts to pull away. We lose label support, and that was the downfall right there, because everything was about who's getting you on your tour, getting your album, merch, all that stuff. Label support.
Great.
I'm going to go to number 4. I'm going to go to New York City, 1987, Warrior Soul.
Oh, yeah, great band.
We have a former punk rock drummer, Corey Clark, who decides he also played in Raging Slab before he ended up creating Warrior Soul. He turns from being a drummer into a vocalist. 1990, they put out a record, coincidentally, also on Geffen. Okay. 1991, another album, Drugs, God, and the New Republic. They get on the Queensryche tour. So you're in the major swing right there, right? 1992, they come out with another album, Salutations from the Ghetto. Relationship with Geffen starts to decline. Corey Clark's vocal about his dispute with Geffen, 1994, dropped by Geffen. So once again, another band that had
Fucking
cred,
Geffen.
had great band, pulled the carpet right out. Boom.
Yeah, you know, he also sang in Trouble.
Yeah.
Oh,
He sings
sweet
on a
action.
couple Trouble albums.
Sweet action. Sweet. All right. So number 3, we're going to go down to Miami, Florida. We're going to go down to start in 1988 with the creation of the band Saigon
Kick. Nice.
Yes. They get a major release in 1990. Then in 91, they come out with the self-titled Saigon Kick album. But really, 1992, they have The Lizard, which goes gold. So they're in great standing. Their videos are in rotation. They're on the radio. They've got great hits. One, which is kind of a ballad that almost gets lumped into the hair metal ballad, even though the band itself is way heavier than hair bands. I mean, there's some down tuning. There's some really heavy chugging. Here's the issue. Dropped by Atlantic, 1994, the same year as Warrior Soul. You see a trend. The same time frame. It's after the release of those major grunge changers, right? We're seeing labels withdraw support. We even see labels trying to direct the band saying, we don't like your album. Imagine coming with an album you've spent 6 months on. Check it out. Labels like, not happy, try again. You come back, either you try again or you fight for your position, and then they drop you. Because they want you to do grunge. We actually saw bands almost force themselves to become grunge because of it. Let's see, we did Saigon Kick. So number 2, New York City. Now, this is a band that started in 1983, but they didn't really hit until their 1989 album, self-titled. The band is Raging Slab. Okay, so Raging Slab was so popular at the time that in 1989, there was a bidding war between a bunch of major labels to sign these guys. And RCA won and signed them to a multi-record deal. 1989, the same year, Guitar World states that they're a blend of Leonard Skinner meets Metallica. So you could just imagine that's a whole new genre right there. What was that, Southern rock country metal of a sort? You know, it's kind of bluesy rock. It's a whole new thing. What happens? RCA is not happy with the direction they go with in their 1991 recording. They withdraw support. Here's the issue, though. They're signed to a multi-record deal, so they don't get out of it right away. They try again. 1992, RCA bails again, so they go with Rick Rubin. Rick Rubin buys out their RCA contract and puts them out on his label. So here it is. RCA, a major, repeatedly withdrawing support in 91 and 92. And now I go to number 1, 1989, out of Hollywood, California. They put an album out in 1991 on Rick Rubin's label, Deaf American. Nobody said it was easy, and the band is Four Horsemen. So check this out. There's a lot. You guys dropped some names. You talked about the Cult. Well, Haggis formed the band after leaving the band The Cult. Rick Rubin suggests to Haggis that he pick up Ken Dimwit Montgomery, Chuck Biscuit's brother, to be their drummer. 1992. Check this out. They were dropped in 92 by a label. Here's what I can't find. is that Deaf American? Because that's kind of weird. I didn't cross-reference that. However, though, the real tragedy is not the 1992 label issue. 94, Chuck Biscuit's brother, Dimwit, Ken, he dies. Chuck fills in on the recording and does some touring. As of 1996, the band's kind of it's fizzled out. Another kind of proof positive of what happens when labels pull the support.
Wow, man.
Nice. I love the dude.
That's
Great
awesome.
job on the background information, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So very nice work, dude, and a great list. I love the fact that you came up with some stuff that makes me want to dig back into this. Into
Yeah,
those
Little
catalogs,
Caesar,
so.
man. I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
Little
dude.
Caesar.
And Dave nailed it. All these guys, there were times they've had 2 lives. There's like maybe a buffer of 5, 7, 10 years. They all come back and they redo it, and some of them are still doing it today.
Yeah, that
Absolutely.
They
Warrior
realize you
Soul
can do
has
it
a new
yourself.
record out. Didn't they just release a new record?
They might have.
Caesar
Year.
had one. Yeah,
Little
Caesar had
Caesar's
one
still
out in
playing, still
2012.
recording videos.
Yeah, 2012. Singer still looks pretty much the same. He's got short hair now, but yeah.
Nice. So we're gonna kick it over to our man Wild Bill. So what's your 5 bands, Wild Bill?
All right. Well, let me go here. Circus Power will be my number 1. Obviously, there's no secret that I fucking love Circus Power. And you'll hear us on the interview talking with Alex. Been a huge fan. Been, influential. That his music's helped me out with a lot of shit, motivated me with stuff as like a lot of the music I listen to. So, Circus Power is my number 1. No surprise on that as far as this goes. Number 2 is the Cult. I don't have to give a lot of backstory on that because Greg already did everything on the Cult. Been a huge Cult fan since She Sells Sanctuary video I saw on MTV years ago. And that was, 85, 86, 85,
Yeah.
I think, when that came. Love the Love out. So that the Cult is my number 2. My number 3 was Little Caesar, and Jay already nailed that. So I got to see them play live one time, and they were great. They're not your typical heavy rock band or metal band. To me, they're just a good rock and roll band. Like, if you want some rock and roll with some soul and just really just good, straight ahead, pure rock, that's Little Caesar. And just the singer always had great pipes. When I saw him live, he sounded exactly like he did on the albums, which is fucking pretty impressive. So those guys were great. And then I'm going to kick it over to Junkyard because Junkyard really
Nice, they're great.
fit.
Yeah.
The first time I saw them, it was basically, I think, an MTV thing again. And their first album, Junkyard, came out in '89, did really well. Was on the charts, U.S. charts, number 105 on the charts when it got at its highest. Had a video for Simple Man and Hollywood, 2 different videos that were on MTV. I'm not sure which one was on there first. And then, and this is what's crazy. This is why these guys fit in perfect what we're talking about. 91, 6s, 7s, and 9s came out on Geffen or Jeffen, however you want to say it. Their second album. After that, basically, yeah, boom. They didn't release any more music again until 2000. So they had like a 9-year hiatus, and that was on Cleopatra, and that was just some unreleased stuff and yada yada. But basically, they kind of got crushed by the shit with grunge. So I mean, that was an issue. And there's something else I wanted to talk about real quick. Just back up one sec. It's funny that we're doing this because in '91, like many hard rock, heavy metal bands, blah blah blah. I'm just reading this. I wrote this down. Circus Power became casualties, popularity-wise, of the burgeoning grunge movement. So I that's fucking straight from
Yeah, it's like a bulldozer just coming towards you.
Yep.
That's exactly. So that came.
Do you like it or not?
Yeah, exactly. And my number 5 band, this, I think these guys fit in this kind of perfectly. They did release something out after, but I think once again that was just kind of reaching at some stuff, maybe some extras and yada yada. There's really not a lot. I mean, you can find info on it, but the band is Badlands.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
hell
Yep.
yeah.
Badlands.
Absolutely.
You got Jakey Lee coming from Ozzy. Ray Gillian from Black Sabbath, Eric Singer, who we all know as, he's played with Alice Cooper,
Yeah.
he's played with Kiss,
Mm-hmm.
filled in for other people. Greg Chasen was the bass player. I'm not really familiar with him. Eric Singer was replaced after the first album with Jeff Martin. And it's funny because you know who Jeff Martin is, right? Jeff Martin is a singer for Mr. Big. I don't know if you guys
yeah.
Oh, no shit.
also a fucking great drummer. So their first album, Badlands, came out in '89. Fucking great album on Atlantic. They threw some money at him. Jakey Lee. They said, "Hey, you got a fucking great sound and fucking songs." I never got to see these guys live that I remember anyway. '91, Voodoo Highway comes out, which is my favorite. I like Voodoo Highway. I like them both a lot. I mean, they're both great albums, but I like Voodoo Highway a little bit more. Also on Atlantic. And then, once again, boom. You don't hear anything from them until '98. And then he died.
Yeah, Ray Gillen died not long after that. I mean, they toured a little bit for the second album, and he died not long after that, I think.
Yeah, he left. There was a lot of friction.
Between him and Jake. Yep.
Let me see. I'm trying to find where I have his death. Yeah, he died somewhere in '96, something like that. So he got diagnosed with AIDS, HIV in '93.
He died December 1st, '93. He died.
Okay, yeah. Well, that wasn't too long after he got diagnosed then. So that's and then, like I said, the '98 thing was more or less like a bunch of unreleased and yada yada. I think they tried starting something with the band again or whatever, but I think Jake went on and just did Red Dragon Cartel or whatever the hell it's called. But Badlands, those first two albums are fucking phenomenal. So that was
nice. Nice.
Killer.
All right. Well, most of the bands on my list you'll hear are bands that either had only, like we just talked about, user bands that only had 3 albums or 2 albums before they were shut down for a long period of time, if not for good, but for a long period of time. So I'm going to start real quick with an honorable mention. I know Bill always laughs at this band, but there's a reason why they're an honorable mention. Enough's enough. Enough's enough.
Oh, yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
See,
Oh,
now
enough of that.
No. So Enough, the cool thing, there's 2 cool things about Enough's Enough. Number one, they're one of the only bands on this list that never quit. They never stopped. Like, they were one of the bands that, even though their popularity was waned, substantially because of grunge, they never stopped recording. They kept functioning as a band. And then one thing I didn't even know till I did the research for this is Jakey Lee played guitar on their 2008 album Dissonance. So kind of an interesting little bit of trivia there, but I give them a lot of credit for sticking it out and never giving up. And Fly High Michelle is still probably one of my favorite bands of that entire era of music. So that's my honorable mention.
And their drummer played with Vince Neil, right? He went on to play with Vince Neil.
Yeah, is that Zoltan? Is that guy?
No.
No, not him.
No, Zoltan is
Vicky
with
Fox.
Warrant.
Vicky Fox, I think, was.
Vicky Fox. Okay, yeah.
Where the fuck I pulled that out of, but.
I thought that guy Zoltan played for.
Zoltan plays for Warrant. Oh, Slaughter.
Zoltan does play
Slaughter.
for
Slaughter.
He does play for Vince Neil now. But
yeah, for his solo band. Yeah.
He played for Slaughter too.
He initially played for. He played for Vince, I think, when Carved in Stone or whatever that album is.
Yeah, but he's supposed to be a badass player. But anyway, so that was my honorable mention. My number 5, I'm not. There's not much I can say that Bill didn't already say. My number 5 band is Badlands. I love anything Jakey Lee does. I love the 2 albums he did with Ozzy. He definitely went obviously in a bluesier direction with Badlands, but Ray Gillen was a fantastic singer. It's too bad, that obviously he passed away and that the 2 of them had some friction regardless, but I even like Red Dragon Cartel. So they definitely didn't get it's funny, like Badlands is looked at as this kind of legendary band from that era. And they only had the 2 albums, but that just goes to show, music is timeless. So if you haven't checked out Badlands, check out their 2 albums. Hard to find the first one. It's not on Spotify. It's not streaming anywhere, but it's worth checking out. My number 4, another band you guys are going to laugh at me about, but let me just paint this picture for you. So if Stewart on Beavis and Butthead was wearing a Trickster shirt instead of a Winger shirt, then Winger would not have been kind of ridiculed to the point that they were. I think Winger is my number 4 band. I think they got kind of buried for 2 reasons. Number 1, because Stewart had a Winger shirt on, and number 2, because Kip Winger was too good looking for hard rock music. He was like a matinee idol kind of guy, and they weren't taken seriously. Even when you have this guy, Reb Beach, who is a freaking shredding guitar player. And the other thing about Winger that you guys, if you haven't checked out, that they did an album when grunge came out, and it's not a grunge album, but it's heavy. And they never let up. I mean, they have music that's come out over the last 5-10 years that's actually pretty good. It's consistent. It's good music. I mean, they're good songwriters. I do think that Winger got the kind of the shaft because they were just looked at as like pretty boys, and they just were never taken seriously.
They got the shaft all right. Yeah. Let me tell you what, any band that writes a lyric, she's only 17.
She's only 11.
Hey,
she's all right.
Gene Simmons.
Gene Simmons did Christine 16.
That's fine, man. That's fine. It's Kiss.
Dude,
Kiss trumps everything.
Dude,
Kiss trumps it all.
Dude, and ZZ Top wrote, the song Francine by ZZ Top's talking about a 13-year-old girl, so we've gone really sideways with that one.
Hey, that's legal in California.
Yeah, or Texas or wherever, but no. Winger, you know, Dave, I have to say, when I saw the Bullet Boys, Cinderella and Winger, I didn't hate them. It's just one of those bands, again, that they constantly played the same music video all the time. Yeah, she's so fun. And I'm like, oh, God, it's on again.
You got burned out on them.
It's on again. Oh, Christ. Put a shirt on.
Yeah, the videos killed them. The look of it all just killed them. But, you know, like I said, Red Beach
leather pants.
He's an insane guitar player. And that band could rip. So my number 3 band is a band I mentioned already, but they only had 2 albums before grunge shut them down. That's Love Hate. And I love both of their albums. I actually like their second album even better. The Wasted in America, I even like even better than their first album, although I love Blackout in the Red Room, She's an Angel, Why Do You Think They Call It Dope? Horrible video, but freaking great song.
Awesome live band, though, man. That tour with AC/DC they were all on it.
They were. And again, they were more of the gypsy vibe, like the Rolling Stones, AC/DC. I mean, they weren't a hair band. And there's a live video of it's like you can see it on YouTube. It was Jizzy Pearl, the singer, and the guitar player. I don't know his name, but they were doing they were just riffing the song "She's an Angel," and they were doing it like somewhere in LA. It was just like kind of an off the cuff thing, but it was live, and they were just doing it raw, and it sounds freaking amazing. That dude could sing. So yeah, those 2 albums are great. I like the second one. Like I said, it's a little more consistent. Wasted in America, the whole album is a little more consistent than the first one, but I love both of them. So Love Hate's my number 3.
That guy's name was Jizzy Pearl.
Yes. Yeah. And he's gone on to sing for Quiet Riot. He was in Quiet Riot for a while.
He was in LA Guns for a little bit.
Was he? Okay. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So and then my number 2 is a band that's already been mentioned as well, but it's Bullet Boys. I like, my favorite album is the one that got it got killed by grunge, which was Freak Show, which is their second album that came out in 1991. I saw them 2 weeks before Nirvana, or not. No, it was, I guess it was like 2 weeks before that came out. I mean, or it was shortly before Nirvana came out. It was one of the best shows I've ever seen at Toad's Place. It was the loudest show I've ever seen in a club. I love Freak Show. It was dark. It was heavy. They refused to put a power ballad on it because they're trying to separate themselves from that style of music. They didn't do a power ballad. They weren't looking like a hair band. And that was it. And they put out one album after that, which was Zaza. And then they were done for a long time, which is, again, it's the similar pattern we've heard a million times. Like, they were done for years before they tried to reemerge. My number 2 band, that was my number 2. So here's my number 1. I'm going to little jam here for you. Here's my number 1. All right, hold on. I'll put my headphone back in. I don't know if you could hear that, but that's
I don't know who the hell that is.
That's Lynch Mob.
Lynch Mob.
Lynch Mob. My number 1 is Lynch Mob. That, you know, they, of course, everybody kind of, you know, anybody that knows the music knows the fallout that happened between Don Dokken and George. They hated each other for almost the entirety of that band. They did not like each other. And the other interesting part of what happened to Dokken is, you know, what killed Dokken was the fighting between the two of them and the fact that they had to go on after Metallica every night on the Monsters of Rock tour with Van Halen. Yep. They said that basically broke their will and broke their spirit, because Metallica was just too big and too heavy, and to have to go on after them every night was just demoralizing for Dokken. And that was after they released what I think is their best album, which is Back for the Attack. And they just couldn't survive it. So then George Lynch goes on and creates this awesome band. Wicked Sensation is one of my top 5 favorite albums from that entire time period. It's a freaking amazing album, and it flopped. And the reason why it flopped was because it was like at the end of that hair era where it was like, and he didn't understand. That's why he ended up getting rid of Oni Logan, because they were sitting around there going, well, why did this flop? He's looking around saying, well, who can I blame this on? The record label, I think, decided to blame it on Oni. So he got another singer for their second album, which didn't do any better because of grunge. And then they were gone. And, you know, obviously they've come back, and Lynch, I mean, I love Lynch Mob. I love almost everything they've ever done. I love almost anything George Lynch has ever done. He's probably my favorite guitar player of all time, period. I could go on and on about George. Hopefully, you know, there's a chance we might get him on the show, but I love Lynch Mob. I still listen to Wicked Sensation all the freaking time. And I even like the re-recorded stuff. I know Bill has it. I've listened to it. It's a cool reimagining. I mean, I just love Lynch Mob and all these bands on my list. I mean, none of the bands I think any of us mentioned here today got a fair shake. What happened to them was, can you imagine? And this is what I would have asked Alex or any of the bands from this era is like, can you imagine when you work that hard and you put out good music, and then the record label basically comes to you and says, we're going to take our funds that we were going to devote to you and give it to these other bands because they're the flavor of the day now and you're not anymore. And everything you've worked for your whole life, and you know you're a good band, and you know you've put a good album together, and it gets shit canned because somebody else decided that you're not the flavor of the day anymore. I mean, it's what happened to them is not fair. And that's why I'm glad we did a whole episode dedicated to this, because you know, what happened to bands like Circus of Power and the other ones we mentioned is just, it was garbage. It wasn't fair. And go and listen to these bands. All the stuff that we talked about today, for anybody listening to this, go check out these bands, man. They're worth checking out. This is timeless music, and it's worth your time to check it out. So, and I can't wait for people to hear the interview with Alice.
Well, we're going to do a Spotify list for these guys too?
Absolutely. So yeah, send me like a couple of songs from each of the bands you guys mentioned. Send me like your 2 or 3 favorite songs from those bands, and we'll put another Spotify list. I think it's really fun. Anybody that's told us said, yeah, I love the fact you guys do this Spotify list. It's a nice companion piece for the episode, you know? So yeah, definitely send me your some of your guys' list. So before we go, I want to, Bill, do you want to, why don't you do like a intro to this interview that's coming up right now? Like, what do you want to say about, like, you know, just kind of do a quick intro for Alex.
Alex, you know, I'm trying to think of like how to. Alex Mitchell, the guy he's basically a poet, with his words and the way that he presents everything. Not in a traditional fact. Like he references Charles Bukowski as you know, kind of an influence and somebody that he's fond of. And I would say that that's the way he is as far as his music and the way that he releases things. You know, he's got a very keen sense of individualism, if that makes any sense. Like he's his own person. There's not
That's
another
true.
Alex Mitchell out
You're right.
there.
Yeah.
He's very individual. I mean, he's not eccentric, maybe a little bit, but Alex is just a great dude. He knows what he likes. He knows what he's into. He knows where he came from. He's fucking respectful of where he's came, what he's had, the people that have played with him throughout the years, the people that have been around him, and especially all the bands and music. I didn't hear him say anything bad or derogatory about any of the bands or any of the people that he's ever played with. He even talks about Gary Sunshine, who Gary Sunshine was the guitar player that wrote all those great songs with him in the Circus of Power. Magic and Madness is my favorite album by them. It's produced amazingly, and it's just a fucking great CD, like from start to finish. Like, it flows. So Alex, give him the time. Listen to Alex. Listen to what he has to say about life as a musician, about life after being a musician, or, you know, like taking those hiatuses in between. He never really stopped Circus of Power. They just had pockets of different hiatuses, and the new music is phenomenal. So listen to him. If you have any, like I said, he's a writer. He's got a new book out called Carrie. what is it, Jay? Confessions of a something lover or something like that. But you know, he said he was going to send us all a copy for free. I said no, we're actually going to buy it. You know, I mean,
Confessions to a Dead Lover.
Confession, yeah. So go out and buy anything Circus Power. Probably all of it's out of print except for, and then the new EP that just came out, which you can still buy. Look online. Go to Circus Power on Facebook. It'll give you a link to buy the EP, and there's a package. It's like $25, and you get a shirt with it. Support these guys, man, because they're fucking real musicians. This guy is real. He's as real as you're gonna get, and he doesn't sugarcoat any of it, and he doesn't fucking apologize for anything he's done. And I just think it was an amazing interview. All of our interviews have been fucking great. We've been very fortunate, but Alex Mitchell's interview was different for us, and at least in my eyes, and I think Greg and Jay.
It's very personal.
Mm-hmm.
Very personal.
Very, very personal.
We brought some stuff out. We talked about some stuff. I talked about some stuff, personal stuff that won't be on the interview, but he'll some of it will. A lot of his stuff he talks about on there, but he's just one of those guys you could talk. We could have talked to him for 3 hours.
I know.
I mean,
yeah,
he's
true,
got
man.
a little bit of
Gift for gab, for sure.
He's got a little bit of everything, man. His stories are fucking great. Like you guys will hear some great stories. So listen to Alex Mitchell, Circus of Power. He's got a couple solo bands too. That stuff's probably hard to find, but I think it'll be a great interview.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, that's coming up. So awesome, guys. Well, I hopefully have some time this weekend. Erica and Mason are out of town for a little bit on Saturday, so hopefully I can
Party at Dave's.
Yeah. So hopefully I can finish. I'm almost done with the Alex interview, and then hopefully I can whip this up, and then it shouldn't be too long before this episode's done. Then I think we're all in agreement. The next episode is our Sabbath episode, because we've got so much in regard that we have the 50th anniversary of Paranoid. We have the anniversary of the release of the Nativity in Black tribute album. We've got the recent release of Vertigo by Zach Sabbath. You know, we've got all this stuff that's kind of coalescing into finally a Black Sabbath episode. So right. We'll give our top 5 Sabbath albums of all time, and you know, we'll talk about Nativity in Black. And you know, it's Black Sabbath, man. We could probably talk about it for 3 hours. So that's one I've been looking forward to for a long time. It's a nice way. It'll be a nice way to start like our October month. You know, we got Sabbath, and we'll do our Halloween show. We could do the show on the, you know, masks and makeup. You know what I mean? Like I think we got a bunch of cool shit lined up for October. So that'll be cool.
Can I list the Dan Spain interview Zoom video? Can I make that public on YouTube, or do you still have to pull from it?
Well, the other part of it that I was going to pull from it was going to be the part that we have where he talks about the formation of Slipknot. And that would be for the masks and makeup episode in October.
I'll sit on it then.
So, and that'll be, you know, we could do that one after we do the Sabbath one. We could do the masks and makeup one. Then we could do like our favorite Halloween music episode in October as well. We could talk about our favorite, you know, like Misfits and Typo Negative or whatever we're going to talk about for like our favorite horror / Halloween music, or our favorite music to listen to for this time of year. So cool.
Lawrence Welk.
Yeah.
Lawrence Welk and Extreme.
Hey, I got a couple things. I know 16 just did they either got one coming up or they just did it. It's my fucking spaced it, but 16's doing like a live show also online. Just look it up. It was either last weekend or it's coming up. I meant to talk about it, but you know, with us delaying the podcast because of my work shit, I fucked up. I had it in my phone, but if not, go out and look. I'm sure it's out there now. You can watch it and check these guys out. It's a band called War Cloud.
Yeah, they're cool.
They're fucking badass,
they're
man.
Bad.
The guitar player played in the band I played with at Wormfest a couple years ago. I forget the name of the fucking band now, but he's covered in tattoos. Phenomenal guitar player. He's in War Cloud now, and he fucking shreds. They got a new EP that just came out, so check them out. I think you guys will be highly impressed. It's fucking cool. This